Hey, good Tuesday morning, and thanks for logging on to BAMWX.com. Meteorologist Michael Clark here with your latest long-term forecast analysis. A lot to dissect today and discuss, including potentially historic blizzard here for the northern plains. Gosh, a lot of folks really dismissing this. It's rather remarkable. It's funny, until the NWS hops on board, everybody's like, it's not going to happen, or it's not going to be that much, or whatever the case may be. I have a feeling a lot of tone and attitude will change later today after the morning model runs come in. So this is a look at month-to-date temperature departures. Just an incredible baroclinic zone there across the central plains. Temperatures running 15 to 19 degrees above the average east and 15 to 20 degrees below the average west. And you get that baroclinicity, if you will, in the central U.S. where you get a ton of warmth in the east, cold behind it, and you're very active in the central U.S. You can see that with the 14-day precip anomalies from the northern plains through the Midwest, down through the Texas Panhandle, and even the desert Southwest places over the last 14 days, running as much as 200 to 300% of the normal precip, even in portions of North Dakota, as much as 500% of the normal in precipitation. So the big thing with this storm coming up, the model data is advertising 2 to 4 inches of liquid. So when you convert that into snow, you start getting really big amounts. This is just a 10 to 1 ratio off the European model. And again, this model here advertising consistently 30 to 40 inches of snow across portions of North Dakota. And it's been doing this for several days. It's been a little bit further west than some of our other solutions like our American model, but the American model has actually been more aggressive, suggesting places would see over 40 inches of snow, but it's further east. I think it's a tad too far east. Regardless, the solutions here are showing these possible outcomes. This is the European ensemble. So what we're doing here is we're looking at 51 different computer models, and we're coming up with a probability to see over a foot of snow. So our probabilities are maxed out from 80 to 100% across central portions of North Dakota here for the possibility of over a foot. All right, so this is a very strong signal. Note how it's backed further west a little bit than it has been the last several days. You look at the probability of over 24 inches of snow, and you have an ensemble mean probability of 50% in spots. And so this is nothing to write off. And again, a lot of the approach you're going to see out there is a conservative approach on the unlikelihood of this, or just trying to maintain some level of calmness or whatever, and I can respect that. But we need to prepare for what the models have been consistently advertising here in the northern plains, and that is a historic early season snowstorm. All right, this is a wind speed forecast from the European model Friday night around 10 o'clock. These are gusts upwards of 65 miles per hour in the heart of where the heaviest snow would be falling. So you're talking zero visibilities and gusting winds over 35 miles per hour. You're easily talking blizzard warnings. I fully anticipate, honestly, I fully anticipate this area here in general this afternoon or tonight to be posted, a blizzard watch to be posted, or a blizzard warning or some sort. I don't know if we do blizzard watches anymore. But regardless, a winter storm watch just isn't going to really cover it. We're going to need something a little bit more aggressive here. And I think that that's going to be the case as we get closer to this event. So our official forecast right now, not a lot of change from yesterday. We backed it west a little bit. You can see up here we updated. We'll type when we update it. Updated Tuesday 8 a.m. because there's still another one circulating on social media. But we backed it west a little bit. All right, and you can see a large swath of 14 to 20 inches of snow as possible, and over 20 inches we believe from Bismarck to Langdon, North Dakota, along I-94 there. Now, again, the cutoff here from the American and the European model from Minnesota to North Dakota is very, very sharp. So we're still kind of accounting for that in this outlook. But our forecast map is conservative based on model data. It just is. It's half of the model data amount. So, again, still historic levels of snow here on the table, okay? Now, after that passes, we look at our forecast low temperatures. This is using the blend of models. And you can see as the front swings through, we'll look here at the temperatures Thursday morning and then Friday morning. Now, remember, the front has slowed down from last week's but it's still a very strong front. It's just a couple of days later. So Saturday morning across the central portion of the U.S., the growing season is going to end for a lot of people. All the way down into the panhandle of Texas, the blend of models is advertising temperatures to get 32 degrees or colder. And that's kind of the line right here. Saturday morning, the growing season ends if you're inside this red circle that I've highlighted here. All right, that's a lot. Okay, and then as we progress forward, it continues. Here's Sunday morning, Monday morning, and I think that the risk here in the Eastern Corn Belt is this blend of model idea might be it could be a tad warm. I think it's possible we could be dealing with some frost here over the weekend in the Eastern Corn Belt. Just as these get closer, these can trend colder, and I wouldn't rule that out by any means in this current situation. So here's our outlooks. Here's week 1 and 2. Right, we note these major cold front coming in. Look how similar it is to 2018. It's rather remarkable, really, how close it is with the warmth east, the cold west, and but regardless, we're working this cold in east, and then late into week 2, I would start to watch for a trend colder in the models, and I'm going to explain that here in a little bit. Because of Typhoon in the Western Pacific and how I think that may evolve. But week 2 forecast, we're going to get pretty wet, we believe, especially in places that really need it. I really think there's a potential to make up for a lot of deficits here in the rainfall department, which may not come at the most opportune time here when we're thinking about harvest. So a very wet pattern, 200 to 300% of the normal precip across the Ohio Valley into the deep south, into the Arklatex regions down there. So something certainly to consider. Now, the late week 2 forecast into week 3 has a lot of risk associated with it because of a strong recurving typhoon that we believe takes place here in the next few days. Now, when it recurves exactly, we'll be able to tell us exactly when we'll see the impacts of this, but I don't think the Euro ensemble has anywhere close to the right idea with this right now. Now, here's the current situation. We see this big trough move through the next 5 days. And then as we go forward here into the extended, what happens is when I think this front is a threat around the 21st of October, what I'm worried about is you have this signal in here of some strong kind of Western-based blocking or Western-based negative NAO from Greenland. And then you have if you have all of these heights up here in the Hudson Bay, you're not going to have all of this here in the east. It's just not going to happen. And then you have the ridge, the heights expanding a little bit here in the Northeast Pacific. And so naturally, what's going to happen is you're going to take this feature here and you're going to shove it east. And this is a bias in the European. It likes to hold these troughs back into the desert Southwest. And I think this is a stronger feature here because of this and because of this. And I think once we shove that east, I think this cold front can become a lot more of a bigger story or a bigger deal, if you will. And I believe the control display of the model shows that. This is one of the 51 members is all this is, but look at what it does here, how it describes exactly what I'm talking about. This feature here, west of Greenland, incredibly strong here, day 13 to 14. And then we start to see this kicks east and a little bit of ridging comes up behind it. So which would amplify this process, and what you would see here is a deeper trough. And I think that the control is showing this much better than the ensemble mean. So what I mean, simply put, is that the colder trends that we saw overnight, I think those can continue into the 11 to 15. In fact, I'll show you what that looked like, the change from yesterday's run. You see how much colder it got. I think this can be a theme because the European ensemble is trying to hold the mean trough into the Southwest, which again is a bias of that model in my opinion. All right. So beyond that, I think we can look at with the AAM trending positive. All right. There's a couple things here. You got a big, strong trending positive angular momentum, positive tendencies. And then you have the recurving typhoon. So somewhere between the 20th and 30th of October, there's going to be a really big cold front in there, and I think it can be rather notable and probably make a little bit of noise here. Now, beyond that point, what's interesting is that typhoon is going to recurve and go up and interact with the North Pacific jet, and then it's going to impact the Bering Sea. And around the same time, the angular momentum may start to dip back negative again. Remember that negative correlation into November sets up shop for a pretty big trough over the north central and northeastern U.S. So we have that working in our favor, and then we see this is the outcome of that Typhoon recurve. If you ask the GFS at day 6 here, and you can see this is a 950 millibar low forecasted over the chain of the islands. So if we were to extrapolate that and draw that out, we're out into the first week of November here. Okay. I think that with the negative angular momentum trying to make a comeback there after it actually never goes positive, after it starts to trend negative again, and this big low shows up from the result of the recurve, this could set up shop for the cold November. And statistically, our analogs are supporting that idea. And our analogs have been outperforming the models anyways. And you can see, looking at the negative angular momentum correlation, I've shown this several times. Note what's interesting here is this southwest southern U.S. blocking, or just higher heights, if you will. And then note the blocking aloft here, kind of hanging out in the higher latitudes. When you look at the EPS weekly, as I take it out into November, into when this may become favorable, note what you see here. You see as we get further into November that this feature starts to show itself. Southwest ridge, blocking across the top, and the trough works in overhead. So that's certainly a pattern that grabs our attention. And I think it's one worth noting that it is quite possible here that November is cold, especially in the northern plains and the Great Lakes, and possibly the Northeast, like our outlook states, based on kind of that methodology I'm sharing with you. As that happens, again, as we transition that, I do think it gets very wet. And we're not backing off of that. Now, a quick update, quick Enzo update. We're kind of Modoki El Nino all the way, Modoki, however you want to pronounce it. It's very obvious right now, the central-based warm equatorial temperature anomalies here at 180 and the cooler anomalies in the east. I mean, our eastern regions of Enzo, technically are in a La Nina state, and our western regions are in a moderate El Nino. So, I mean, if you look at the actual weekly values. So that weighs heavily on the seasonal outlook. And when we look at years where that's been that way, you look at the December, January, February composite, and that's pretty doggone cold. And you're looking at winters in there like 77, 78, 90, 91, 03, 04, and 14, 15. So those are just some years where this has been a similar outcome. And again, we'll talk more about that in our official webinar tomorrow. Make sure you are registered for that, all right? And if you're not, it's a client webinar, email us. That's all I have for today. Have a great day.